Hi guys, welcome back to What's on My Plate. So for tonight, I'm making a beef stew. It's gonna be delicious, you're gonna love it. I've already prepped everything, so we're just gonna get to cooking. So let's get started. So to get started, we have 3 pounds of beef chuck roast. I had bought a big piece and I chopped it in smaller pieces. I salt and peppered all of it and I set it aside. Now in my big pot here, I'm heating up 1 tablespoon of olive oil and we're going to start browning this meat. So that's the next step. Okay, so in my pot here is 1 tablespoon of olive oil heating up. I'm going to take half of my meat and I'm going to start browning it. So brown each side just for, the pot has to be hot, so on high heat. So just start adding it and then just brown it for like 30 seconds aside or until it's browned. So we're going to do half of this meat. Okay, so we leave it in here till it browns, then we remove this, and then we start browning the other half of the meat, and we're going to set it aside. Okay, since the heat was on high, this browned up within a minute for the whole thing. So now I'm going to do the other half. Since there was a lot of meat, I couldn't fill the whole pot, or it wouldn't have cooked correctly. So that's what I'm going to get to next. Okay, so now that I removed the meat, I added another tablespoon of olive oil so I can brown the rest of the meat. So I'm going to toss this in and brown all the sides, just like I did for the first batch. If your pot is big enough, go ahead and brown it all at once. So after this browns, I'm going to remove it from the pot and set it aside. Okay, so now I removed all the meat and I set it aside. So the next thing I'm going to do is, in the same pot, I have 12 ounces of chopped bacon. So we're going to cook the bacon until this is brown. And then we're going to remove the bacon out because I want to cook my onions and my garlic. And then we're just going to combine everything. So let's get the bacon cooking and we'll get to the next step. Okay, my bacon is almost done. It's about 4 minutes right now. So it depends on how long it takes you to cook your bacon. When it's done, remove it with a slotted spoon and place it on the side. And then we're going to start cooking our onions. Okay, so now that my bacon is removed, I'm going to lower the heat and add the onion. I'm going to saute the onion for about 3 minutes on a lower heat. At least till it's a little tender or translucent. So the onion is a whole onion chopped. So this is going to saute, and then I'm going to add in the garlic. So we'll do the next step after this cooks on its own for a few minutes. Okay, then I went ahead and added 4 tablespoons of chopped garlic. I'm going to just let it saute for just like 30 seconds, and then we're going to start adding the flour in. Okay, so in my pot here, after the onion is sauteed, the garlic is sauteed, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of flour. I'm going to mix it all up for just like a minute or 2. Okay? And then the next step is going to be adding my Guinness Beer. So I'm using a whole 22 ounce of Guinness Beer. So I'm going to lower the heat and I'm going to start adding it in. And as you're adding it, scrape the bottom and get all those bits off. All those bacon bits, all the garlic, onion, pieces of meat. Okay? So that's what we're going to do next. It already smells so good. Okay, so this is a 22 ounce bottle. There we go. And then just keep scraping the bottom and make sure all the little bits got off here and they're incorporated in the beer and the onion. Okay, and then we're going to get to the next step. So now we're going to, okay, so now that the beer is in, I'm raising the heat. I'm adding 2 cups of beef bone broth to this. Okay, I'm going to mix it up. Okay, the next thing would be 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. Add 2 tablespoons in here. It's 1, 2. Okay, then we're going to add 3 tablespoons of tomato paste right in here. Okay, and then we're going to blend this in. Okay, get that tomato paste like broken up in here. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is I have chopped carrots and chopped celery. So we're going to add that in next. So I just had really large carrots and I sliced them. So it's 3 large carrots and 2 stalks of celery just chopped. It doesn't have to be, it could be like a thick chop. It doesn't have to be tiny or anything. So now that's incorporated in there. So we're going to mix this up. Okay, now I'm going to add back in my bacon. Okay, I'm going to blend all this up together. And now I'm going to add all my meat right back in. Okay, all the juices and the plate, everything. Just add the meat right back in. Okay, mix this up very well so everything's incorporated. Okay, and then the next step is just adding a bay leaf. I can't forget my bay leaf. So I'm going to add my bay leaf, and I'm just going to add 2 bay leaves. My bay leaves are broken. So I'm going to add 2 bay leaves in here, make sure everything's all mixed up. And now we're just going to get it to a boil, and then we'll get to the next step. See, it's all coming together. It looks great and it smells great. Okay, so now that it's starting to boil, I'm going to remove it from the heat. I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'm going to put it in a 325-degree oven for 2 hours with the lid on. After 2 hours, I will remove the lid and still keep it in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the sauce reduces a little bit. And then it's completely done. Or you know what, if you don't want to put it in the oven, you can cook it right on the stove on a simmer covered for 2 hours and then remove the lid and then reduce the sauce at that point. So there's 2 ways to cook it. I'm just going to cook it in the oven, and either way is going to be great. So thank you so much for watching what's on my plate. I'm so excited to eat this. It's delicious. And again, I didn't add extra salt because I salted the meat very well, and I put pepper all over the meat. So we also had the bacon with all that salt. You can always taste it, and then you can add more salt if you want. Okay, so let this cook and then I'll show you the end result. Okay, so here's my beef stew. It cooked in the oven for the 2 hours. And then you take the lid off and continue cooking it in the oven so this sauce can reduce. This sauce has all the flavor. You want it to reduce a little bit more. So you can leave it in the oven, or you just put it on the stove top and have it reduce for about 25 minutes or a little bit longer, and then it's done. And I'm gonna have this with a side of mashed potatoes. Oh, and the meat, I already tasted it, is so tender and absolutely delicious. So I'm gonna take a picture after I plate it. And since I took it out of the oven because I wanted to show you, I'm just gonna let it continue to reduce on the stove here instead of putting it back in the oven. But you could do that, or you could just leave it in the oven, but just make sure you take the lid off. Thank you so much for watching What's on My Plate.